Hello everyone, this is Grace. It is December the 4th, 2021, and this is going to be a replacement video for the original video on the patterns of 7 in Revelations part 3. In that video, I did what I keep making the same mistake. I'm going to have to figure it out, but I put Revelation 13 under the 7th trumpet, and that was incorrect. So we have to go ahead and replace that video, and that's what we're going to do here. So this video, in this video, I wanted to point out, primarily, I wanted to point out that the first 4 of these patterns was not universal. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. So we'll go to the first church, which is Ephesus. And if we look at the churches, because we subscribe to all 3 interpretations of the churches, but if we look at it as far as the last day events are concerned, just by looking at it, you can tell that it's not universal. It gives the works of each person. It tells their the things that they've gone through, but we know everyone has not gone through the exact same experience. We know that everyone has not been exposed to the exact same things. But even if they had, when you get down to the end, it separates them into 2 groups, those that overcome and those that don't. So even if you use that in and of itself, you can see that it's just not universal. And you can say that for all of the churches. But we're looking specifically at the first 4. So the first 4 churches, they're not universal. And then we carry that on to the seals. So we look at the first 4 seals. And the seals, if you take this and apply it to everyone, well, they're too severe. It would wipe out everyone. You can apply the first one maybe because that's just the original offering. But the second seal, the 4th seal, actually it would conflict because we're talking about the saved also in the 3rd seal, but it can't be universal. It just can't be. Not logically. It's too severe. It would take out everyone. No one would survive. So you have the first 4 seals there. And then we will go into the trumpets. I'm sorry. This is my second time doing this. I'm trying to get it right here. So then we go into the first 4 trumpets. Now we know just by interpreting these trumpets that they're not universal. Just by what they say when you interpret them. Okay, so these are not universal just by reading them. Are interpreting them, you can tell that it's each a different group of people. They have 1 group, they have 2 groups. They have the first group that goes under the 9th hour church, and then the destruction of the church, and so on and so forth. Okay, and then that would take us to, so when we get to the 16th chapter and we look at the first 4 vials, then there's no need to actually change the pattern. It's still not going to be universal, and that makes sense because these 2 are also very severe. If you just take the 2nd and the 3rd and make those universal, where all of the water is going to be destroyed, then you pretty much knock off everyone on the earth. No one can survive that. Okay, yet and still, there's still plagues that are falling out afterwards. So it just cannot be that way. And if you look at Sister White, if you're familiar with Sister White, she tells us that all of these have actually been falling all along in little droplets. All of these things have been happening a little bit at a time. It's just that as it gets closer to the end times, then they increase in severity. And that's also illustrated in the New Testament as well. They increase in severity as we get closer to the end. So let's just do a recap real quick before we continue on. So you have the first 4, which are always going to be in the past, at the time that they are introduced. And then the 5th is the present. So the fifth church, if you can recall, well, you may not have seen the previous video. So the fifth church, we have the first four, which are going to be in the past. That's us during our time, the ninth hour church. And then you have the fifth, the sixth, and the seventh, all of which are part of the 11th hour church. So all of these three are players in the 11th hour church, and will also be part of the 144,000 that come after the judgment. But if you look at the ceremony that's going on in chapter 4, hold on. Hold on. I think it's chapter 4. Is it chapter 5? Oh, okay, yes. If you look at the ceremony that's going on in chapter 5, when the seventh church is created, it actually skips the first four, because it tells you these are all in the past. He says, come and see, come and look back. They've already happened. And it jumps down to the fifth. It jumps down to the fifth seal as being the present seal. So this is another reason why I wanted to show you this. Because when we study the fifth vial, it's going to point out that when that fifth vial is open, it's actually going to take us back to the seventh trumpet, which I misidentified before. But anyway, let's continue on. So you have the first four seals. The fifth is going to be the present. And then after the fifth seal is the judgment of the dead. So the dead are given their reward. They all go through the judgment. And then it takes you into the sixth. So you see how they're related? And it doesn't give you the impression that a lot of time takes place. I imagine sometime it's going to take place. There needs to be a few things that are done here and there. But it gives you the impression that things happen quickly in order after the fifth. And then the sixth and seventh are always together. Church of Philadelphia are good and perfect. The Laodiceans, they have a lot of errors with a few that can overcome, right? And then you have the ninth hour and the 11th hour that's under the trumpet. You have the judgment of the living taking place and the creation of the 144,000. But if we go there and we look at the seventh seal about to be open, we have, this is the sixth, right? And it says, and after these things I saw four angels standing on the four corners of the earth, holding the four winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor any tree. And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living God. And he cried with a loud voice to the four angels to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea, saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God in their forehead. Now, why is it saying this? Because this is the sixth seal, and the seventh seal is about to be open. And inside the seventh seal are these four winds, which are about to be blown. These winds are supposed to be blowing at this time. So it says, hey, hurt not the earth, nor the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God in their foreheads. So it's putting a hold on them. So when we get to the next chapter and it says the seventh seal is opened, you don't really see the winds blowing. You don't have any of those problems happening. We know these are already in the past from the previous study. It takes you to the fifth seal. It takes you to the fifth trumpet. You see the servants of God are sealed by the fourth verse. It says, and I commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of God in their foreheads. So they're sealed by the fourth verse. And then you get down to the sixth angel, and finally the four winds are released. And I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar which was before God, saying to the sixth angel which had the trumpet. I'm getting my seals, my trumpets, and all of that mixed up. I'm sorry. This is not the first time I've done this video. It's just getting a little redundant for me. So, loose the four angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates. And you see they're released under the sixth, as opposed to being released beforehand. So they were just held. So then we get to the seventh trumpet. And of course, now the vials are released. They've already been happening in droplets. But now they are going to become more severe. But just remember where we are. We're now under the fifth. And when the seventh trumpet is blown, it takes us directly to the fifth. Because these have already been released in droplets. They just become more severe. So we get to the fifth. And this is where I made a mistake before. Before I said that present tense was going to be chapter 13. That's not correct. That's me, once again, placing the 11th hour church under the seventh trumpet. It actually takes us to chapter 14. After the message has gone out, right after the message has gone out, then the 144,000 receive their blessing. And that takes us into the seventh seal, the seventh trumpet. We can see it in Revelation 11 as well. I'm going to have to fix this because I keep doing the same thing. And after 3 days and a half, the spirit of life from God entered into them, and they stood upon their feet, and great fear fell upon them which saw them. And they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, Come up hither. And they ascended up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. And in the same hour was there a great earthquake, and the 10th part of the city fell. And in the earthquake were slain of men 7,000, and the remnant were affrighted and gave glory to the God of heaven. So the great earthquake is America being destroyed. And the 10th part of the city fell, and the earthquake were slain of men 7,000. All of this, well, the remnant, all of the, everything after that, I'm going to have to study, of course, but it has to happen in the, somewhere or another, the 11th hour church is in here. Because when you get to the seventh angel sounding, it says, And there were great voices in heaven saying, The kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of our Lord and of his Christ, and he shall reign forever and ever. Well, he has his kingdom completed there. And the first kingdom was the 144,000. So we know that they have to be in this group. We know that everything has to be under him at that point. So I just have to go back, study this, get it right in my mind, so I won't keep doing this. Now, this is the same reason why I actually took down the church of Ephesus. So let's go there and take a look. So when I did this study on the church of Ephesus, the study was right. It was perfect. It was fine. But I made commentary. I made three different commentaries. One I can correct because that was on the name of the guy in Genesis. Then I can correct that later. There's no problem when I redo the church of Ephesus. I just gave you the wrong definition for his name. And then the other mistake I made was I told you all about... Oh, the wicked. They're going to blame us for everything. They're always trying to blame God. They're going to blame us for everything no matter what. It doesn't matter. Don't even worry yourself about that. Look, here's what's going to happen, basically. We know this from Sister White. They're going to receive disappointment after disappointment after disappointment after disappointment. And then some atheist is going to come along, not atheist, this wasn't said, but you know what I mean. Some joker's going to come along who wants to turn them against God, and they're just going to say, haven't you had enough yet? This book isn't real. None of it's real. And they're going to say, oh, you must be right. Now it's God's fault, you see. God should have showed them the truth. Now God has sent them hundreds of people to tell them that there's no such thing as rapture. But they're not going to believe it until they turn away from God. So they're going to experience failure after failure after failure, disappointment after disappointment after disappointment. Who can resist just saying, oh, the whole thing must be fake? Most of us don't have that kind of constitution. If we really believe something is going to happen, that's just normal. Now, we, of course, can sit back and say, well, that doesn't make any sense. But if you really believe it's going to happen and you experience disappointment after disappointment after disappointment after disappointment, it's going to be fairly easy for the wicked to change their mind about the whole Bible and about God. But then, of course, they always have the hour where they just try and blame God. Well, God should have told me or taught me better. It's not a work for them with God. It's not a work for them with us. Okay, so the commentary that I made in regard to the wicked just blaming us for everything. Look, we still have to be accountable for every word that comes out of our mouth. Just understand that we have to tell people the truth. We cannot give them the excuse that they didn't have the truth, because everyone has to have the truth. There's not going to be any finger pointing at God in the end. No, that's not going to happen. But they are going to finger point at us. That's inevitable. So I got that wrong. I got the first commentary wrong. But the third thing that I did was I told you that I was not a part of the 144,000. And I don't know that that's true. I was told that I was here until the end. I don't know what that means. Okay, so I kind of put my dreams together along with that statement. And it would have been fine, except I keep wanting to put the 11th hour church under the vials. I have to get that out of my mind. I have to. I just have to. Anyway, I very well could be a part of the 144,000. I very well could. I'll tell you real quick about my dreams. I'm not going to tell you my dreams, not right now. We're at 17 minutes, and there's something else I want to address. But as a young girl, all of my life, all through my entire youth, and of course, I can't remember every day of my youth, but I remember as a young girl lying in bed. Well, first of all, let me tell you, all through my youth, I've had the same 3 dreams every single day. Well, I don't remember every single day, of course, but it seemed like it was every single day. And then about the age of 15 or 16, I stopped having them every single day. So I remember distinctly that I stopped having the dreams every day. I was like, I wonder what happened? What's going on? And I was like 15 or 16 years old at that time. So after I stopped having the dreams every single day, because I wasn't having them every day anymore, I don't know exactly when they went away, because there was spans when I didn't have it, right? But I was either like 22 or 23 when I realized that they were pretty much gone away for good, that I just wasn't having them anymore. But I do think I remember having them pretty much every day as a young girl, even as a child. Now, of course, as a child, you jump out of bed, you don't think about that kind of stuff, right? But I remember lying in bed as a young girl, because you have bedtimes as a child, and I would think about it then, and I would wonder what it meant. And I remember this through my entire youth. They just came. The same 3 dreams would happen. I would have every single day. And that's why I recognized it immediately when it stopped, when I was a teenager. I remember standing, and to this day, I remember standing in my room making my bed, thinking about the fact thinking about the fact that I didn't have the dream. I remember that just as clear as if it was yesterday. But anyway, so I don't know when they finally stopped, because before they stopped, I stopped having them every day. And once they were spread out, I didn't miss them. But anyway, we don't believe dreams here on this channel, so I don't really need to tell you my dreams because they only apply to me. They only apply to me, basically. But that's the reason why I kind of put two and two together and said, oh, I wasn't part of the 144,000 because of my dreams. So, but that's a mistake. I can't use that if I push the 11th hour church back to where it rightfully belongs. I can't. So I will address one other thing, because I've heard it more than once. I don't like to address things that I've heard only once, because I'm not trying to point fingers at anyone or anything like that. But there are a couple of videos where I am going to have to address a point that has been going on, like, I'm not trying to pick on any other churches, but I have heard this more than once, and I have to tell you that I don't agree that the 144,000 are all men. I've heard it a couple of times now. So let's see. We're going to have to look the verses up as we go along, because I didn't look them up. I just wanted to get this out. But I think that scripturally, if you look at the scriptures, you can say that there is maybe a scripturally sound case for it. However, logically, it's just not logical. If you look at the scriptures logically, it was only the men that ever did anything. Actually, I'm gonna pause you while I look up something. Hold on. Okay, so let's look at the scriptures real quick. And the Lord spake unto Moses and to Aaron, saying, every man of the children of Israel shall pitch by thy own standards with the... Hold on a minute. Did I get the right one? It's in Numbers. No, that's not it. No, it's in Numbers somewhere. Okay, here is the scripture for the 144,000, or the numbering of the men in Jesus' army. And the Lord spake unto Moses in the wilderness of Sinai, in the tabernacle of the congregation, on the first day of the second month, in the second year after they were come out of the land of Egypt, saying, take ye the sum of all the congregation of the children of Israel after their families, by the house of their fathers, with the number of their names, every male by their polls. See, it specifically says that they go by the house of their father. Our Father is God, with the number of their names. Well, we all have the name of God. We, like Father, the Bible is very clear. It's like Father, like Son. Okay? So we have our Father's name. We represent the Father under the name of Jesus, basically. Or under the name of the Father. Because we have our Father's name in our forehead. But it says every male by their post. So it identifies the male specifically. And then as you go on, it's going to repeat that. And Moses and Aaron took these men, which were expressed by their names, and they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the names, from 20 years old and upward by their polls. And the Lord commanded Moses, so he numbered them in the wilderness of Sinai. And the children of Reuben, Israel's eldest son, by their generation, after their families, by the house of their fathers, according to the number of their names, by their polls, every male from 20 years old and upwards, all that were able to go forth. So that's the last mention of the word male. Here, it's just going to give you the numbers from that point on. We'll read the first one. Of the children of Simon, by their generation, after their families, by the house of their fathers, those that were numbered of them, according to the number of their names by their polls, every male from 20 years old and upward, all that were able to go forth to war. Okay, well, I made a mistake. We'll do one more because obviously that's the last mention of it. Of the children of Gad by their generation, after their families, by the house of their fathers, according to the number of their names, from 20 years old and upward, all that were able to go forth to war. So it mentions it a couple of times, all the males. And so it has been said that the 144,000 are going to be males. In my point of view, that is entirely incorrect. The males this is war. You don't send females to war. So it specifically says the males are going to be going to war. That's not true for the servants of God. He doesn't call them his army at all. Let's think about the symbolism here. Oh, wait, I'm going to the wrong place. Let's go back to Revelations real quick. Let's look at Revelation 5. We're going to look at this real quick. And I saw on the right hand of him that sat on the throne a book written within and on the backside sealed with 7 seals. And I saw a strong angel proclaiming with a loud voice, "Who is worthy to open the book and to loose the seals thereof?" Now I want you to pay special attention to this part. It says, "And no man in heaven nor in earth, neither under the earth, was able to open the book, neither to look thereon." Are they talking about men or men and women or anybody? They're talking about anyone. "And I wept much because no man was found worthy to open the book, to read the book, neither to look thereon. And one of the elders said unto me, Weep not, behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, has prevailed to open the book and to loose the 7 seals thereof." Now, is he talking about a man here? He is, but they're never going to say a man. "And I beheld, and lo, in the midst of the throne of the 4 beasts, and in the midst of the elders stood a lamb, because as a man he was not worthy, as a sacrificial lamb he was." It's just, but they're not talking about men here. And if they were, let's go back and let's look at the original command for the feast days. Now the feast days represent the resurrections. Those are the resurrections. We have a resurrection for the Passover, which is Jesus and you guys, I actually believe that it was all men that went up with Jesus. That's why this is so hard. It's so hard. Okay, but I'm going to show you why. Okay, but I'm not asking you to believe that. I'm not going to ask you to believe that it was all men that went up with Jesus. Okay, but I have to say that I do believe that it was all men that went up with Jesus. I believe that it is logically incorrect to say that all of the 144,000 are going to be men. But I'll show you that real quick. "And I saw an angel standing in the sun, and he cried with a loud..." Wait a minute. I thought I had marked this verse. Obviously, I didn't. Hold on. Here it is. "3 times in the year all thy males shall appear before the Lord God. Thou shalt not offer the blood of my sacrifice with leavened bread, neither the fat of my sacrifice remain until the morning." Whatever. This is the command to appear before God. So are we supposed to believe that only men are going to be saved because only men were commanded to go to the feast days, which literally represent the resurrections? It's not only men. It's just not. So if we were to believe, because in Numbers, the men had charge over certain duties, just as they did here in Exodus, that it's only going to be men, then we can only say that men are going to be saved. And no women are going to be saved. And that logically makes no sense at all. It just doesn't make logical sense. You can find biblical precedents for this. It's true that biblically you can find a certain case for this. Logically, it doesn't fit. Let's look at the scripture in Revelation real quick. In Revelation 14, we'll address the virgin thing because it says all men in Revelation 14 as well. "And I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on the Mount Zion, and with him 144,000. Hold on, let's look at it in verse 7 quickly, because it doesn't say men here in Revelation 7. And I heard the number of them which were sealed, and there were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel. Actually, I don't know if that's men or not. Let's look and see. Son, Wiley, kinship. I guess it could be men. So yeah, either way, it's not only men, but it could. I really don't know. I didn't look at it, and I didn't even think about it until now. We can do a quick search. Hold on. Of the children of Israel. Let's just see how it's used regularly. Yeah, son. So it's actually pointing out son here as well. And that's fine. Children, sons, children. Okay, it's used interchangeably, which is correct, because it's not actually son, it's actually children. So it's converted correctly. It can be used as son, or it can be used the same way it was used in chapter 4, where it says there is no one, where it's saying there's no man. It's talking about there's no person. Same thing here. But we don't have to go here, since it does say use a word that's commonly used for son. We can jump to 14, and we'll look at it here. And I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on the Mount Sinai, and with him 144,000, having his father's name written in their foreheads. And I heard a voice from heaven, as the voice of many waters, and as the voice of great thunder. And I heard the voice of harpers harping with their harps. And they sung, as it were, a new song before the throne, and before the 4 beasts, and the elders. And no man could learn that song but the 144,000, which were redeemed from the earth. Well, when I paused you, I realized that there's no argument here either, but we'll read through it anyway. We'll start from here. And they sung, as it were, a new song before the throne, and before the 4 beasts and the elders, and no man could learn that song but the 144,000, which were redeemed from the earth. So it tells you they were redeemed from the earth. These are they which were not defiled with women. Okay, women, of course, being a church, for they are virgins. They're virgins because this is the bride of Christ. And a virgin in the Bible is a female of marrying age. These are they which follow the Lamb whithersoever he goeth. We see that in Revelation 19. I went over there with you before. Which follow the Lamb whensoever he goeth. These were redeemed from among men. It doesn't say that they're men. It says they're redeemed from men, among men, being the first fruits unto God and to the Lamb. So there's really not a case here. But let's look at, so really the only case you have where the 144,000 are identified as men is back in the Old Testament, where men went to war. So they had a choice: identify them as the army of God, or place women in the army of God. That doesn't make sense. No, it's just a type. It's exactly the same as in Exodus, where the men, who were the head of the household, went to make the sacrifices. They were a representative. It was a type. It doesn't only mean men. It doesn't exclude women. That's just not logical. It's not logical. We are in the image of God just as men are. Just because our responsibilities are different, that doesn't disqualify us from heaven. Now, that said, we're going to take a look at the example. But listen, here is the thing. Women couldn't fight in a war. They were not head of the household. In the Old Testament, these were positions which they didn't hold as female, as a woman, okay? In the New Testament, when we look at the example for the Passover, for the resurrection of the Passover, if you can accept it, because it's not clear. And so whether or not you can accept it is going to be part of the explanation. I believe it, so I'm good with it. So we're going to look at the story of Samson, if it goes through this time. Here we go. So now, like I said, if you can accept this as part of the, as an example or a type of the Passover, then you can understand it. If not, you don't have to. You just don't have to. It is, it is, but it's not clear enough for me to make a big deal about it, okay? And Samson went down to Timnath and saw a woman in Timnath of the daughters of the Philistines. And he came up and took his father and his mother, told his father and his mother, and said, I have seen a woman in Timnath of the daughters of the Philistines. Now therefore get her for me to wife. So they did that. Okay, hold on a moment. Let's just start from here. And he went down and talked with the woman, and she pleased Samson well. And after a time he returned to take her. And he turned aside to see the carcass of a lion, and behold, there was a swarm of bees and honey in the carcass of the lion. And he took thereof in his hand, and went on eating, and came to his father and his mother. And he gave them, and they did eat. And he took not, and he told not them that he had taken the honey out of the carcass of a lion. I don't know if they would have ate it had they known that. I don't know if that would have been considered kosher. So his father went down unto the woman, and Samson made there a feast, for so the young men to do. So this is right here. This is our example or a type of the Passover, if you can accept it. And it came to pass when they saw him that they brought 30 companions to be with him. Now, it's a bad example because he's doing it with the Philistines. They're all heathen. They're not Jewish. And Samson said unto them, I will now put forth the riddle unto you. If ye can certainly declare it to me within the 7 days of the feast, and find it out, then I will give you 30 sheets and 30 changes of garments. But if you cannot declare it to me, then ye shall give me 30 sheets and 30 changes of garment. Hold on a moment. I thought there was more of a description. It was all men. And it came to pass when they saw him that they bought 30 companions with him. For so used the young men to do. And Samson said unto him, Now I will put forth the riddle unto you. And he put forth the riddle. So maybe the women could come to the feast. Maybe I got this all wrong. But it was a feast of men. The young men would have a feast. And I think I'm going to change my mind about this, actually. But anyway, you can see the feast here in the next chapter. But it came to pass within a while after, in the time of the wheat harvest. So the wheat harvest came after, which is when he went to get his bride, according to the Pentecost. But you know what? I'm going to have to rethink this, because it does not. It says, so the young men used to do. Hold on. But it doesn't necessarily say that the women are excluded. So I'm going to. They were all men, though. I don't know. I'll let you decide. I know I'm going to think about it, because when I read it before, I kind of felt like, yeah, the 24 elders, they're all men, because it was a feast of men. And they talk about the men and what they're doing. Yeah. But anyway, now I have to reconsider that. I'm not sure. But anyway, let's go look at one more parable in the Bible, in Matthew 24, the virgins, of course. If we look at that parable, you all know that's all women. So it literally places all women in place of the last day saints. Where is it? It's not Matthew 24, it's 23. All right, let's just find it. $25. I knew it was somewhere around there. Then shall the kingdom of heaven be likened unto 10 virgins, which took their lamps and went forth to meet the bridegroom. And 5 of them were wives, and 5 of them were foolish. 10 virgins. Are we going to say they're all females because they're virgins? No, we can't do that. It's just an illustration in order to teach you. You have virgins here. If you look at, if you combine this with, let's see, the feast. Where was that? It's Matthew 22 or 23. I'm going to get it wrong. The kingdom of heaven is likened to a certain king which made a marriage for his son, and sent forth his servants to call them that were bidden to the wedding, and they would not come. Mind you now, these are going to be men in this story. Again he sent forth other servants, saying, Tell them which were bidden, Behold, I have prepared my dinner, my oxen and my fatlings are killed, and all things are ready. Come into the marriage. But they made light of it and went their ways, one to his farm, another to his merchandise. And the remnant took his servants, and entreated them spitefully, and slew them. But when the king heard thereof, he was wroth. And he sent forth his armies, and destroyed those murderers, and burned up their city. Then said he to the servants, The wedding is ready, but they which were bidden were not worthy. Go ye therefore into the highways, and as many as ye shall find, bid to the marriage. So the servants went out into the highways, and gathered together all, as many as they found, both bad and good. And the wedding was furnished with guests. And when the king came to see the guests, he saw there a man which had not on a wedding garment. And he said unto him, Friend, how camest thou in hither, not having a wedding garment? And he was speechless. Then said the king to his servants, Bind him hand and foot, and take him away, and cast him into outer darkness. And to outer darkness there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Again, a man. Are we supposed to believe that this only means that men go to hell? It's what? We can't do that. We just can't. Biblically, it's sound. Logically, it's unsound. It's an unsound it's an unsound doctrine when you consider it logically. Especially when you consider that men did pretty much everything in the old days. They did everything. You have to consider that. You have to consider that. You just can't exclude women from stuff like that because of a job or a position. That's the logical way to handle it. So anyway, I think that I said everything I needed to say about that. And I will see you in the next video.